In this video, I want to break down for you a very simple strategy to be able to trade that you can make more money in the bull market coming up without having to spend months or years learning how to trade. Now, of course, if you do want to learn how to trade, I do recommend that because learning one simple little trick, while it can help in the short term, it's obviously better that you understand how these markets work. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because the more money I can help you make, the more likely it is that you're going to like this video, share the channel, refer friends, and maybe even become a paid member of my VIP membership, which, by the way, I'm holding a Black Friday special offer until November the 28th. The details are down below. If you want to sign up, click that. But let's dive straight into this and let me share with you how you can make more money in this bull market. So what you can see here on the chart is Bitcoin is at 37,300, and you can see here I have some drawings here on the chart. So in case you don't know what this is, let me explain this real quick. We have a parallel channel here with the high of the wick, the low of the wick, and 50% here, the dotted line, is the middle between those two extremes. Now, the strategy is simple. It is a range setup strategy. This is a range, and when the price is in between the range, we don't trade because that's when it's likely to get chopped up. We wait for a sweep of either the high or the low. Usually you don't really know what you're going to get. However, in larger bullish trends, you usually get a sweep of the low first and then a continuation up, which is exactly what we got here. By the way, I actually called this in advance in my last video. If you haven't seen that, I will link to it up here or in the description down below, where I can show you this is not just some hindsight analysis. I've done many free calls like this on the channel in advance before, and it just works beautifully. So you can see over here, I posted this 8 days ago on November 13th, the Bitcoin trade idea, and you can see Bitcoin was at 36,900, and this was the idea before the setup played out. So we're waiting for a sweep below or a sweep above, and then look for the entry. And now we are trading in the middle of this as a potential range. Usually you don't want to trade in the middle of a range because it's just too choppy and designed to wick out people trading with high leverage. What we're looking for is a sweep of the high or the low of this wick and a reclaim of this range. So basically one of the two scenarios. We don't know which one we're going to get, and either way that gives you a setup. So if it goes up and it sweeps the high and drops back in, that is a potential short. Okay, and we are on a bullish trend, but if this setup comes, the risk reward is usually very good. You can see over here, if it does something like that, that's almost a 1 to almost 7 risk reward, which is a good setup to take, you know, if you're trading the ranges. But if it sweeps the low first, which in a bullish trend I'm leaning towards, that means it gives us a potential long position after a sweep and a reclaim. So let's just say it sweeps the low here and it reclaims. We can enter over there and let's stop at the low. We don't know where that's going to be yet. Okay, that's only visible after it sweeps and comes back in, and then we target continuations. So now looking at this 8 days later, you can see how perfectly that worked out, exactly like I said. So you don't trade within the range. We got the sweep of the low. You can see it's usually pretty quick. It happens because there's all these liquidations here, and people who are trying to long it within the range, they all get wrecked. Okay, so very simple rule. If you define a range like this, you see a range, don't trade in the middle, wait for the extreme, because then after the liquidations happen, you get a much better entry, and the chance of your stop getting hit gets a lot lower. People are trying to trade within this range, they get wrecked. Okay, so very simple. We define the range, we're patient, we wait. Right, like catching a fish, you put your line in the water and you wait for the fish to bite, or setting a trap, or you know, anything like that. You're just waiting. So you define that, you wait for it, we get the sweep, and after the sweep, when it reclaims, that is the trigger for entry. Okay, you can't just blindly go and long it when it drops here because maybe it keeps going. So the condition is it sweeps it and gets back into the range. At this point, you can take a long with a stop at the low, targeting the range high. And as you can see, it is actually still within this range, so it hasn't quite completed. I do still expect in theory that this is going to continue higher and take out the wick high, take out the high of the range. So again, this is where patience comes in, because the entry here is November 14th, so you'd be waiting already a week to be able to hold this, but you can see you'd still be in profit. This is almost a 1 to 4 if it ends up playing out. and you can see it's just still here within the range. Now people are betting on all sorts of directions. We're simply waiting. If you didn't get the trade here, this was the optimal entry. You simply wait for a new setup to play out, because if you start betting over here, even if you start targeting the high, it can still drop and it's probably going to stop you out. So you wait for these setups. Sometimes you get one a month, sometimes you get one a week, sometimes you get multiple within a week, okay? But if you don't get a setup, then don't take a trade, because it's much harder to get the direction right and to get a good setup within the range rather than waiting for this setup. And this setup and this strategy is so easy that even if you do nothing else and you only focus on this range setup, it is possible to be very profitable, because it is not a 100% hit rate, okay? Just like with anything in trading, there is possibility for loss. So that is why you have your stop loss. But in general, these setups give you a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 risk reward, meaning that even if you're wrong 2 out of 4 times, even if you're wrong 50% of the time, you are still profitable, because when you're wrong, you lose the 1 unit, the 1%, okay? So if you have a $10,000 trading account, you're risking $100 to make $400. So when you're wrong, you lose $100, but when you're right, you make $400. So that is why the math is very easy. Even if you're right 50% of the time, that means you lost 2%, but you make 8%. So you're still up 6%, even if you're wrong 50% of the time. This makes it so powerful. These setups occur on lower time frames all the way up to higher time frames. So they can take place on 5-minute charts, and obviously the distance they move is much smaller, but they also work on 4-hourly, like you can see over here, 1-hourly, 4-hourly, even daily charts, where it just takes much longer for these to develop. But that is why it's so nice, and you can trade these both with leverage or with spot. So on higher time frames, like for example the 4-hourly or the daily chart, when you get a drop like that, you can see the move is pretty large. From 35, the target would be 38.5, right? So that's almost a $3,000 move. That is pretty interesting. With spot, that is almost a 10% move. So even if you are not trading with leverage, but you have larger capital and you don't want liquidation risk, then you could trade with spot and you could enter it there. And that could still be very profitable. If you have smaller capital available and you want to trade with leverage, you could simply risk 1% of your trading account to be able to make 3 or 4% or even more, because imagine it hits the upside and just continues going to 40,000 or more, then obviously you have a very profitable entry. So as you can see here, this just works. It's very easy, it's very simple. I called it for you in advance, so this is not just some backwards hindsight analysis where, oh, you should have done that or you should have done this. No, I called it in advance before it happened. I gave you the conditions, I gave you the levels, and this is how it's playing out. By the way, if you are looking for a crypto exchange to trade with leverage, I use both BYBIT and BitGet. The links are in the description down below. If you use my links to create an account, if you don't yet have one, you get amazing sign-up bonuses and the best benefits. So if you appreciate this info and you don't yet have an account on BYBIT or BitGet, sign up through my links below, and that is a great place to trade. Now that's not just a one-time fluke. Actually, if you go back on my channel, you will see many more examples like this where I've called out ranges before they happen, and it plays out absolutely perfectly. So I want to give you an example here. This also recently just happened on Ethereum. Yes, in crypto, ranges work very well. So you can see I posted this on November 16th. Okay, and what I'm sharing with you here also is the heat maps. I'm not going to go into that. I actually have a complete video about liquidation levels and heat maps. I will link to that in the description down below if you want to see more. But basically what I'm saying here is, again, it was in the middle of the range, so I'm not looking to trade in the middle of the range. Same rules. We define the range here, the high to the wick low, and we're looking for a sweep either of the high or the low. In bullish trends on the higher time frame, it is more likely that it sweeps the low first and then continues going higher, but we are open to both sides. The trigger, once again, the condition for an entry is it has to sweep the extreme of the range and drop back into the range. And you can see Ethereum here was trading at 2031. I was saying here the low, I would be interested in a trade after it sweeps, and then around 1920 back up to the range high of 2140. So let's have a look what actually happened with Ethereum. Well, here is that exact range that I've showed you before, where I called it in advance, November 16th. That's 5 days ago as of making this. And it played out perfectly, like I said. We swept the wick low. You can see here a little sweep, and you never know how deep it's going to go. Okay, you never know if it's going to be a big wick, if it's going to spend multiple candles below, or if it's just going to be a quick sweep below and then back up, which it was in this case. So we wait for the sweep and the reclaim. Very important, because otherwise it could just continue going lower. We wait for the sweep, the reclaim, take a long, stop is at the low, and then we're targeting the range high. And that is exactly what happened. You can see over here it's already hit the middle of the range, but we still have this potential target here at 2140. We're currently at 2008. But it's still in profit. At this point, you could move the stop to break even. There's no risk, and you can simply be patient and wait, or you can take some partial profits, you can take all profits, or you can wait for it to go back and see if it hits that 2140 and the range high, like the theoretical target of this setup would be. And in this specific case, it is absolutely an insane risk reward, because over here, if you would have taken that based on this criteria, it would be a 1 to 12 risk reward setup if it hits the range high at 2140, meaning that if you risked 1%, if you were wrong and got stopped out, but if you were right, you make 12% on your account, which is phenomenal by taking only a 1% risk. And that is how powerful this is. Obviously, these ranges have different risk rewards. Like the Bitcoin one I showed you was 1 to 4, sometimes it's 1 to 3, but in general, it's at least 1 to 3. And sometimes it can be as high as you can see here, 1 to 12, which is phenomenal. And I mean, if you can make 12% on your account from one trade by only risking 1%, that is incredible. Even you do that once a month, you are absolutely crushing it. So it pays to be patient, even if you only trade the setup. You know, nothing else, no other setups, purely ranges on Bitcoin and Ethereum. It actually also works pretty well on altcoins. Then it can be very, very profitable. And as I said, you can do this with spot on larger time frames, so there's no liquidation risk, or you can do this with leverage. This is absolutely a very, very easy trick for trading and a very profitable one, even if you just stick to this. So if you learned something and you found this valuable and you are going to be testing this out, smash the like button. If you know anyone that could benefit from this, that wants to improve their trading, refer them to the channel and share this video with them, because it's free and it works. If you want to learn more from me, obviously I've got a lot more training. I've got a complete 50-lesson course about trading, about how these charts work. The range setup is a very nice one, but that's just one of many concepts that are around that you can use to be able to trade, become more profitable, reduce your risk, reduce your stress. And that is just a small part of what you get in VIP, because there's so much more training. There's monthly updates, research. I write a newsletter. I share my own trade setups and market insights like this on a daily basis going forward. So if you want to join us now until November 28th, I'm running a Black Friday special. The link is in the description down below. It's the lowest price I'm going to offer it at, the most amount of training and bonuses, and there's a 60-day money-back guarantee. So you can sign up, get access to everything. If you're not happy, just send an email, you can get your money back, no strings attached. But you have to sign up before the special offer is over on November 28th. After that, the prices increase, and I will be increasing it even further in 2024, because it's simply just too cheap for everything that I share inside there and the value that you can get. Risk-free, mind you, 60-day money-back guarantee. So if you're interested in joining, click the link down below. Try this out. Let me know if you make some money with these setups, and I will see you in the next video.